You're being accused, you're being cornered. You feel the urge rising in your throat to explain, to justify, to plead your case. You believe that if you simply explain your side, the misunderstanding will go away. But what you don't see is that you've already lost. The moment you defend yourself, you put yourself beneath the accuser. You've acknowledged their superiority. You've accepted their framing. You've admitted that your worth depends on their judgment. This is where Machiavelli flips the script. He never defended, he redirected. He attacked, he stayed silent. But he never begged. Because he understood one simple law: defending yourself is submission disguised as logic. You believe you're being reasonable. They see you as weak. Machiavelli saw power as perception. If the perception is that you are scrambling to justify, you're already beneath them, even if you're right. It doesn't matter. Power isn't in truth. It's in dominance. When someone accuses you, they're not looking for facts. They're looking for confirmation that you are beneath them, that they can control your emotional state, that they can throw you into reaction mode. And once you react, they lead. So instead of defending, Machiavelli taught the art of redirection. When the enemy says, "You did this," you don't say, "No, I didn't." You say, "And you did worse." When they say, "Why didn't you follow the rules?" you say, "Because rules are made to protect cowards." When they try to corner you, you laugh. When they try to frame you, you reframe them. And when they scream, you whisper, because silence forces their own echo to haunt them. Power is not in the answer. It's in refusing to play the game. Those who defend themselves believe they are protecting their image, but they're actually showing that their image is fragile. If your name needs defending, it's already broken. But if you stand in silence, with no need to explain, your name becomes something they can't shake. Because the moment you make them feel that you don't care about their judgment, they realize they have no power over you, and that terrifies them. Defensiveness is emotional exposure. You are showing what matters to you. You are handing over your pressure points. Machiavelli would never expose what mattered to him. He would smile in betrayal. He would nod in rumors. He would thank you for the insult, because his real strength was never public approval. It was control over perception. And perception is everything. You must learn the power of the strategic shrug, not the "I don't care" that reeks of passive defeat, but the kind that says, "You're too insignificant to disturb me." Because the more emotional they get, the more calm you must appear. The more chaos they throw at you, the more centered you must stand. That stillness, that refusal to panic, that is the Machiavellian edge. People will test you, not always out of hatred, but out of instinct. They want to know who leads. And in that test, the one who reacts least always wins. Defending is reacting, and reacting is losing. So when they throw the bait, don't bite. Let them speak, let them scream, let them build their case, and then walk past them like they never mattered. Because nothing enrages a manipulator more than being ignored. Understand this: when you defend, you validate the accusation, even if it's false, even if it's absurd, even if it's beneath you. The moment you step into the ring, you admit that the battle is real. Machiavelli would never give his enemies that satisfaction. He knew how to destroy people without ever addressing them. He understood the power of letting the silence do the damage. You don't need to fight every battle. You only need to make them regret starting it. Not with loud rebuttals, but with unshakable presence. The kind of presence that says, "You will run out of breath before I run out of calm." That is dominance. That is the throne Machiavelli built with words he never spoke. Power flips the moment they realize they can't control you. And nothing exposes their weakness like your refusal to play defense. Because when they scream and you don't answer, the crowd starts asking, "Why is he so calm? Why doesn't he care? What does he know that we don't?" And now the tide turns. Now they look suspicious. Now you flip the script without saying a word. That's the trick. Let them burn themselves out. Let them shout in your absence. Let them drown in the noise they created. You stand still, you stay untouched. Because that silence, that control, that detachment, it makes you dangerous. It makes you untouchable. And when you do speak, speak like the king who knows he doesn't have to explain himself. Speak like the lion who doesn't roar unless it's time to strike. Machiavelli believed power doesn't come from volume. It comes from timing, from understanding when to act, and more importantly, when not to. The masses are addicted to reaction. They thrive on drama. They scream for blood. But a true strategist watches, waits, builds, and when the moment comes, delivers a blow so precise, so cold, so unexpected, the enemy never recovers. You must understand how the weak use moral guilt as a weapon. They accuse not because they care about the truth, but because they want submission. They want your apology. They want your head bowed. And if you give it, they will never let you lift it again. But if you don't give in, if you stare them down without a blink, if you rise instead of fold, they panic. Because their power was built on the illusion that you'd break. The moment you don't, their entire weapon becomes useless. That's when power flips. That's when the crowd sees the real strength, not in the one who accuses, but in the one who cannot be shaken. This is not about arrogance. This is about presence, about controlling your own narrative. Because the one who defines the frame controls the game, and the one who refuses to be defined controls the world. The moment you defend, you trap yourself inside their frame. You accept their terms, you play on their field. But when you refuse, you force them into a new reality, one where your silence becomes the loudest answer, and their noise becomes their downfall. Machiavelli once said, "A wise prince must learn how not to be good, because in a world of wolves, goodness is often a performance. Power, however, is real. Power is choosing when to respond. Power is knowing that silence hurts more than argument, that absence is stronger than rebuttal, that mystery terrifies those who feed on chaos." Never defend yourself. Instead, study them, understand what they fear, find their cracks, and while they shout, prepare your strategy, because when you move, you must end the game, not play it. In this world, many will misunderstand you. Many will accuse you. Many will try to stain your name. Let them, because the moment you care, they win, but the moment you rise above it, they vanish. Machiavelli didn't win through love. He didn't win through virtue. He won through mastery. And mastery begins where defensiveness ends. You are not obligated to make people understand you. You are not required to explain your choices to those who will never respect you. You owe them nothing. And in that nothing lies your greatest weapon. Let the storms come. Let the rumors spread. Let the world question. But you remain untouchable. Let them realize too late that you were never defending. You were observing, waiting, calculating, until the moment came when you no longer needed to explain. You simply acted and everything changed. People believe the louder you speak, the more right you are. But Machiavelli understood something deeper. Truth doesn't matter in a world ruled by perception. Once they accuse you, the truth is buried. Now it's about dominance. If you defend, you concede. If you explain, you've lost the higher ground. Because truth is not the sword of the powerful, silence is. The most dangerous man in the room is not the one shouting. It's the one watching, saying nothing, but seeing everything. When you defend yourself, you place your value in their hands. And the moment your worth depends on another's approval, you're no longer free. Machiavelli didn't just teach manipulation. He taught insulation from the noise, the blame, the desperate need to be liked. His strength was not in having no enemies. It was in never needing to lower himself to fight them. The truly powerful don't enter every fight. They choose battles so precise that each move either wins or destroys. When someone accuses you, the masses wait for your reaction. They're not interested in your innocence. They're watching to see if you'll tremble. If you do, they believe the accuser. If you stand tall, if your eyes remain cold, if your voice stays silent, they begin to doubt the noise. Never explain yourself to a crowd that feeds on drama. Never lower yourself to the level of those who weaponize gossip. Let your results speak, let your presence haunt, and let the echo of your refusal make them question their own actions. You see, when you defend yourself, you're reacting to their script, but power is writing the script. It's not about reacting to their fire. It's becoming the fire. It's about speaking in a way that stops questions before they're asked, about living in a way where even your enemies hesitate. Because here's the truth, people remember who made them feel small. And when you defend yourself, you're asking for their approval. But when you don't, when you rise above, when you turn your back with indifference, that burns them more than any argument. This doesn't mean you never act. It means you act like a shadow, present, but untouchable. Real power isn't about proving your side. It's about being so rooted in your reality that you don't care about theirs. You don't need their validation. And when you truly don't need it, they start needing yours. It's psychological warfare. And Machiavelli was a master. He knew that people fight not for justice, but for control. They push you to defend so they can own you emotionally, so they can turn you into a puppet of their accusations. But if you just don't respond, they go mad, they begin to project. They scream harder, and the more desperate they get, the more ridiculous they seem. Meanwhile, you remain composed. You create contrast. You become the one in control, because power is not in being right. It's in never being desperate to prove it. Think of the great rulers. They don't explain. They declare. They don't justify. They move. That's the game Machiavelli played. He never begged to be understood. He built a presence so feared, no one dared to question him directly. And those who did were met not with defense, but with consequence. Learn this: the person who speaks last wins, the person who stays calm controls the storm, and the person who doesn't flinch defines the entire mood of the room. Most people don't understand silence. They fear it, they misinterpret it. And that's the point. Your silence forces them to fill the gap. They'll invent stories, play out scenarios, and eventually doubt their own judgment. Because if you're not shaken, maybe they're wrong, maybe they overstepped, and maybe, just maybe, they should have kept their mouth shut. Now you've flipped the power. You didn't fight, you didn't argue. You just held your position so deeply that they backed down on their own. You made them question their approach without saying a word. This is why Machiavelli warned against moral pleading. The moment you defend with emotion, you're playing into their hands. They want your reaction. They want your vulnerability. Because once they get it, they'll use it against you. But if you give them nothing, no weakness, no panic, no defense, they starve. And they hate starving. So they'll try harder, they'll push further. But the more they try, the more desperate they seem. Meanwhile, your silence grows louder, until eventually everyone sees the difference. One side is fighting to prove something. The other doesn't need to. Which one looks more powerful? Exactly. You become the storm they can't touch, the presence they can't understand, and the question they can't answer. You become dangerous, not because of your words, but because of your restraint, because no one knows what you'll do next. And that uncertainty is the greatest threat of all. Machiavelli said, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims." In other words, most people will fall into traps because they're driven by reaction. You must not be like them. You must rise above the impulse to justify. You must become the kind of person who understands that silence is not absence. It's strategy. This isn't about coldness. It's about clarity, about knowing that every word you speak is either building your power or leaking it. And defending yourself always leaks it. You want to flip the power, then never let them make you chase their approval. Never let them pull you into their chaos. Stand, watch, speak only when it serves your elevation. And when you do speak, do it in a way that makes them regret ever doubting you. The strongest men in history were misunderstood, insulted, falsely accused, but they didn't fight every lie. They built such an undeniable presence that eventually, truth became irrelevant, power became their answer. You are not here to win arguments. You are here to win control of the room, of the mood, of your future. And to win control, you must stop defending, start commanding. Defensiveness is the sound of insecurity. Even if you're not insecure, the moment you try to explain, that's how you're seen. But when you refuse, when you let the accusation echo into silence, you show that you don't need their understanding, and that makes you immune. The accuser only holds power when you give it to them. When you stand unbothered, you take it back. When you flip the pressure, you become the one asking questions without asking anything. What are they trying to gain? Why are they trying so hard? Why does your silence bother them so much? Now the spotlight is on them, and the more the crowd watches, the more they see desperation, not dominance. That's how you win. You don't argue, you don't react. You become the standard. Let others dance in the flames. You are the fire itself. Machiavelli knew the real war was never on the battlefield. It was in the mind. And he played it better than anyone, because while others shouted, he planned. While others panicked, he pivoted. And while others begged for approval, he became untouchable. You can do the same. So the next time they point a finger, don't point back. Let the finger tremble. Let their voice crack. Let their confidence waver. And then do nothing. Because the moment you realize you never had to defend yourself to anyone is the moment they can never touch you again. Never forget, defending yourself is the language of the powerless. When you're truly in control, you don't need to explain anything. You simply live in such a way that their accusations collapse under your reality. You want to flip the power? Start by breaking their rhythm. Every accusation is a beat they expect you to dance to. Refuse, let them speak into silence. Let their rhythm fall apart. And when they finally pause, trying to understand why you're not playing, step forward. Not with words, but with action. The moment you move without explaining, the moment you act without justifying, they realize the power was never in their words. It was always in your restraint. People live off emotional reactions. They push to see if you'll break. The minute you show they can move you, they will never stop. They'll poke. They'll twist. They'll escalate. But if you train yourself to not flinch, they run out of tactics. Their power dies and you rise. This isn't coldness, it's discipline. You can care deeply. You can feel everything. But you must never let them see it. Because in the game of power, what is seen is what is targeted. What is hidden is what controls. Become unreadable. Become untouchable. Become the man who doesn't blink when accused, who doesn't explain when attacked, and who doesn't chase when abandoned. You stand. That presence alone, that refusal to engage, forces them to reflect. Because here's the secret, people don't want justice. They want response. The moment you refuse to give it, they feel powerless. And powerlessness is the one thing they can't stand. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be respected. And respect never comes from defense, it comes from authority. Think of a king, a real one, when a peasant screams. Does he come down to argue? No. He doesn't even flinch. That's not arrogance. That's order, that's hierarchy. That's the unspoken law that says, your words don't deserve my attention. That's how you must think. Let them shout from below. Let them beg for your reaction. You give them nothing, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Because you understand that the only way to truly hold power is to never give it away, even in a sentence. You will be tested, you will be pushed. But if you hold your ground, something strange happens. They start to back off. Not because you yelled, not because you proved anything, but because they realize you don't need them. And the one who needs less wins. You want to flip the power. Stop trying to clear your name. Start building one they can't touch. Every second spent defending is a second lost building. Every minute spent explaining is a minute stolen from your real mission. And the longer you let them drag you into emotional chaos, the longer you delay your rise. Let them lie, let them twist. You stay focused. You rise so high that their words can't reach. You move so fast that their stories become outdated. You become so powerful that their attempts to destroy you sound like comedy. That's the Machiavellian path, not the fight but the rise. And one day when they look back, they won't remember what they said. They'll only remember how you never responded, how you kept building, how you kept winning, how you remained untouchable. Because that is what burns them the most. The lie didn't work, the accusation didn't land, and the silence was louder than anything they could have imagined. So the next time you're cornered, insulted, blamed, don't defend. Pause, look them in the eye, and let them feel the weight of your stillness. Because in that moment they'll realize they were never fighting you. They were fighting the ghost of their own weakness. And you were already gone. Building, watching, winning, silently, ruthlessly, completely. And that is the final move they never saw coming.